Hello everybody, welcome to this video and indeed welcome to a brand new series. This is something I talked about in my last video, a series where I show off my horror movie Blu Ray collection. It's relatively small at the minute compared to a lot of people I've seen on YouTube, but I thought I could show you what I've got thus far in this video, and then future videos could be updates much like I do with my albums and my music. And yeah, it's something different for the channel, and it's something I haven't really done before, talking about movies and that. I've got my Halloween series on Video Nasties coming up next month, but I thought it's something a bit different. I'll try and be a bit more versatile. So yeah, nothing too special in this video. I think I've got about 30 Blu-rays to show off here, and then future videos will be kind of what I've gathered between the last video. So yeah, it's going to work much like my record update series. I know there's probably not going to be a lot of my usual viewers here. If you are a regular viewer, then hello, I hope you're doing well. And also, if you are new to the channel through this video and you don't know who I am, then my name's Ben Simpson and I like horror films. So yeah, I hope you find some other things to enjoy. So I'm going to get on with it really. I think, yeah, it's about 30 things here. So without further ado, we shall get cracking. Okay, so the first item to show is probably the most interesting item. I think this is in alphabetical order. It's the Alien anthology on Blu-ray. It looks quite nice in the light as well. Yeah, this features Alien, Aliens, Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, but I think it's actually a 6-disc set. It's got some documentaries in it. It's going to open out in a very awkward way to show off. It's worth pointing out as well, I've only been collecting Blu-rays for a few months now, so there's nothing too majorly special in this collection as of yet, but I'm working on it. So yeah, we've got Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, then there's, what's that, the making of the anthology, and the Alien Anthology Archives. So I haven't seen these two. I have seen Alien and Aliens. Alien 3 I've seen, but I don't really remember. And Alien Resurrection is something I'm yet to experience. So yeah, some of these films I haven't seen, so I won't comment on them, but if you've seen them, then by all means let me know what you thought. So yeah, and I picked this up from a shop that's nearby that does quite cheap Blu-rays. This was £7, so very happy to have that. Very high quality as well. All the Blu-rays here are, from what I know anyway, like picture-wise, very good, so I would recommend them. Right, next up we have an example of one that I haven't seen or even heard of. This is just one I saw. No, it was one my dad saw, actually, that was going pretty cheap. This is Alien Abduction. It's a found footage sort of thing, I believe. And it's, from what I understand, it's pretty reminiscent of the McPherson tapes and, there's another name for that, Lakeside County Investigation or something like that. So yeah, it's just a found footage film about an alien abduction. It's not something I've heard of. As I said, it mightn't be the highest quality, but I like to think I can appreciate films even if they're kind of so bad it's good, or you know, not of the highest quality, shall we say. But yeah, Alien Abduction. Right, now a controversial one. This is the Blu-ray of The Babadook. It was released in 2015, 16. I'm feeling like it must be 16. And yeah, everyone absolutely raves about this film. So I can't remember if it was me or my dad who got this, but yeah, I think it might have been me. I picked it up and was quite excited to watch it, and didn't really think a whole lot of it. I've only seen it once, so it might be one of those films that needs a second viewing. But yeah, I mean, I understood what it was trying to get at. You know, I understood that it was about mental illness and grief more than anything. And a lot of people who liked it just tend to say, oh, just because it didn't have jump scares in it. And you know, I get that. You know, I know jump scares can be used cheaply and everything, and that it's more about the atmosphere, and I absolutely love horror films that are oozing with atmosphere, but no, The Babadook didn't really do anything for me, unfortunately. Okay, next up we have kind of the opposite. This is a film that not many people have said positive things about, but I actually quite enjoyed. This is The Bay. It's got a few people who were involved in Insidious and Sinister, and those are two films that I quite like, so I was excited to pick this up, and it's found footage again, and I tend to have the same feeling as most people on found footage, where there's a few films where it really works and a lot of films where it doesn't. And yeah, to be honest, it doesn't look of the highest quality, but yeah, it really, really shocked me. It's about this, well, it's a bay and there's a parasite in the water, and it all goes to shit. So yeah, actually quite a scary film, I would say. I enjoyed this one, The Bay. Next up, it's not strictly a horror film, but there's horror themes in it, so I've thrown it in with my horror films. This is Buried, starring Ryan Reynolds. Not a film that I've seen, but I really need to get on this because I've heard good things about it, and yeah, I'm claustrophobic, so this should do me well. Yeah, not much I can say on films I haven't seen, but like I say, I've heard good things, so if you've seen this, let me know what you thought. Right, next up is The Chernobyl Diaries. It's a relatively recent film about these tourists who take a not-so-legal trip to Chernobyl to have a poke around and find a bit more than they wanted to. Not a lot of people enjoyed this. I thought it was quite good. But that might be because I have this kind of weird obsession with Chernobyl. I just think the whole area is very interesting, and it's a place I'd quite like to visit myself, although this film has somewhat put me off that. But no, overall, a very enjoyable film. Right, now next up is probably my pride and joy thus far. It's my only Arrow video release, and for those who don't know, although if you're watching this video I imagine you probably do, Arrow Video are kind of like right up there with the best of the best, high quality wise, when it comes to Blu Rays. And this is City of the Living Dead by Lucio Fulci. I absolutely love Italian horror films, so it was exciting to see this one. And yeah, it absolutely lived up to my expectations. You get a little information booklet inside that goes through all the film and the restoration, and obviously the film there. Which way around does that go? There you go. But also, something I quite like, and I think this is a feature of all Arrow Blu-rays, is they have an alternate cover there, so you can flip it round and change it if you like. So Gates of Hell, I believe, is the Italian title, but as much as I prefer that cover, I've always known this film as City of the Living Dead, so I think I'm going to leave it like that. Yeah, I think this was Fulci's first film in his Gates to Hell trilogy, because that also featured House by the Cemetery and The Beyond. And while I absolutely love this film, it does have its creepy, Fulci, gory moments in it. I'd probably have to put this at the bottom, if I'm honest, of the Gates to Hell trilogy. I'd say The Beyond is probably my favourite, and then House by the Cemetery comes in the middle. Next, we have a found footage film that most people tend to agree really works. This is Cloverfield, sort of a modern classic, I suppose, isn't it? Basically Godzilla, but found footage in America. And yeah, I've seen this a few times through. Enjoyed it quite a lot. Haven't seen the new film, but I've heard relatively good things about it. So yeah, not much to say on Cloverfield. Okay, next up we have The Conjuring. It's James Wan, another sort of James Wan ghosty film. Came out, I say relatively recently. I call anything that isn't like classic horror recent. But yeah, this is I've kind of got mixed feelings about this whole thing, because there's a lot of films like Annabelle and The Conjuring and Insidious and Sinister. There's a few films that stand out as being very good, but a lot of them become dangerously repetitive, especially when you get sequels. I mean, you've got The Conjuring 2, you've got a new Annabelle film coming out, but this is enjoyable from time to time. It's not dreadful at all, and I do quite like James Wan as a rule, so yeah, The Conjuring. Next up, we have a film that I've only seen once, but it was at the cinema, and I remember enjoying it. Again, it's not strictly a horror, but again, it's got the themes in it. It's Contagion, and it's about a contagion, really. It's sort of it's not a zombie film, but there's a plague that's spreading, and it's basically people's documentation of people trying to survive through this plague. And from what I remember, it's left on quite an open ending. I think it ends with you finding out how the plague started, and yeah, it just kind of leaves you in midair. But yeah, quite an enjoyable film from what I remember. Okay, next up we have The Crazies. This is a remake of the George Romero film from the 70s of the same name, and from what I remember of them both, I didn't really care for them both. I think I'd probably choose this over the original, although the original just has that George Romero touch. But yeah, neither of them are like fantastic films, but yeah, I remember enjoying this when it came out, so yeah, I picked it up pretty cheap. Okay, this is an example of the shop that I get these from, or get a lot of these from, having mainly like sequels and not having the original. So this is The Descent Part 2. I would have The Descent Part 1, but I haven't come across it yet. And I haven't actually seen this. I've seen the first film, and absolutely loved it, so I've got high hopes for the second one. It's also worth saying that a lot of these did come from the same shop, so you'll find a lot of recent films, but I have an Amazon wish list of like 250 plus films that, you know, features all sorts, classics, Hammer stuff. So yeah, it goes all over the place, but this is just an example of what I can get at the shop near me, so that's The Descent Part 2. Next up is an interesting one, because not a lot of people like this, and me and my boyfriend David actually really did like it. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident, and it's the first lenticular cover. Yeah, it's another found footage film. Again, it's one that I think does work quite a lot. They say it's based on true events, in that some people once died at the Dyatlov Pass. But yeah, some people go to make a documentary about it and they find out why they died, and it's quite shocking. So yeah, it's enjoyable up until the last 15 minutes where the budget really comes through and the monsters just look absolutely terrible. But, you know, I'm not one to slag off bad effects, but this did kind of take me out of it slightly, which is a shame. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's quite an enjoyable little film. Okay, now we have a real classic, or classics, should I say. This is the Evil Dead trilogy, the original Evil Dead, obviously, with Bruce Campbell. Yeah, this is exactly what it says on the tin. This is the Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. If we open it up, we'll see. I really like the background with all the branches coming in. So you've got the original there, and then the second and third one. I tend to go against what most people say. I think the second one is alright, but I really do prefer the first one by absolutely miles. Army of Darkness I've only seen once, but I just remember it being quite cheesy and a bit naff, if I'm honest. But I'm, you know, open to changing my mind about that if I watch it a second time. So yeah, the Evil Dead trilogy. Next up is another classic, and it's one that I always call this my favourite film, and no one can quite understand why. This is John Carpenter's The Fog. Yeah, I absolutely adore this film. The reason why is because it's simplistic, but it's creepy at the same time. I love like just a simple ghost story, and it's done really well. And I just remember watching this as a kid, and it freaks me out. And I still get that same feeling when I watch it. It's one of the few films that still creeps me out a bit. So yeah, that's The Fog by John Carpenter. And this was actually a Christmas present from my boyfriend David. So yeah, thanks David. Great film. Okay, it's sort of like a family horror film, I suppose you'd call this one. It's not like, you know, out and out scary or anything, but yeah, this is Joe Dante's The Hall. I think it's Joe Dante. Yeah. Yeah, it's creepy, but like a family film at the same time. It's quite hard to explain without watching it. Although I have to say that there's certain things in this that I think maybe they should have bumped this up to a 15, if I'm honest, because yeah, there's some creepy stuff going on. Quite an enjoyable film as well. It was released in 3D, and I think I went to see it at the cinema in 3D, so it's been a while, but I remember enjoying it. Here's one I hadn't heard of until my dad got it for me. This is The House at the End of the Street, with Jennifer Lawrence and Max Theriot. I don't know how to say his last name. The guy who was in Bates Motel. Yeah, this is that classic story of girl moves into house, likes boy next door, no one else does. Oh shit, there's a reason no one else does. It's a good little story. It's nothing outstanding, but it's fun enough. Yeah, it's actually a lot better than I was expecting it to be, in honesty. But yeah, there you go. House at the End of the Street. Okay, sort of a modern classic coming up now. One of the few modern ghosty films that I actually think is unique in its way. This is Insidious, the first Insidious. Part 2 I do quite like as well. Part 3 didn't really do much for me, and I can't speak for Part 4 because it hasn't come out yet. But yeah, Insidious, this is James Wan, I believe, again. And yeah, I really do quite enjoy this film. I think it's quite good. Particularly when you watch the second one and realise that they're kind of interwoven with each other in a very clever way. So yeah, if you haven't seen Insidious, then definitely give it a go. Righto, this is another classic, and honestly I bought this, well, one because I love the film, but two, I was also curious to see what it looked like on Blu Ray. This is George Romero's Night of the Living Dead from 1968, and to answer my own question, it looks absolutely brilliant on Blu Ray. Yeah, couldn't be happier with this. It's absolutely fantastic, film and quality wise. So yeah, Night of the Living Dead, I'm sure everyone has seen this, but if you haven't, then it's all over YouTube because no one actually owns the rights to it, but if you can get it on Blu Ray, I would definitely recommend it. That's the thumbnail. Right, next up, sorry, I've kind of got them with the back to me, so it's kind of a surprise when I turn it around and see what film I'm talking about. One Missed Call. This is a film that my dad really likes. I watched it a while back and remember quite enjoying it, but I can't remember much about it. I vaguely remember people getting phone calls and hearing themselves die, but that's as much as I can say. I remember vaguely enjoying it though, so high hopes. And I've just realised how creepy that disc is. Is that even the right film? It doesn't even look like the right film, but yeah, it says One Missed Call. So yeah, I can't really say a lot, but it's generally accepted as quite a good film, so yeah, One Missed Call. Okie doke, next up is one I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about. This is The Pact. I don't know much about this other than it's ghosts in a house, so it's, you know, it could be quite repetitive in context with a lot of other films that came out around the same time as this. But a lot of people tend to say that this is quite a good one, so yeah, high hopes for The Pact. This one definitely isn't a horror film, but it's, you know, it's got the themes there. It's a monster movie, and it's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. This is Predator. Not a film that I've seen, shockingly, and I need to get on it as soon as possible. The reasons I've put this in with my horrors are that it's a monster film, but also there's Alien vs Predator, which is obviously a horror tie-in. So yeah, more of an action film, but definitely it's got the horror themes in there. And there's the disc. This is the earliest film I own thus far, I believe. I think. Yes, it is. And yeah, no one can say that this doesn't need to be in everyone's collection. This is Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho. Yeah, really not a lot to say on this one. It's just an absolute classic. Looks brilliant on Blu Ray. There you go, Psycho. You can probably guess that I bought this from the same shop as The Descent Part 2, as here we have Wreck 2, Fear Revisited. I absolutely love the Wreck series. The third one, not so much, but the first and second one, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I haven't yet got the first one, but this is the second one for when I do have the first one. Yeah, it's basically 28 Days Later, but in a confined space and in Spanish, for those who haven't seen this film. But yeah, if you haven't seen this film, I definitely recommend it. But obviously, watch the first one first. Okay, quite a bizarre one next. This is one that my dad recommended, and I believe this is one he got for me as well. This is Shrooms. It's kind of about this, from what I remember, about this group of kids who go out to the woods to get high on mushrooms, and they start seeing things that they assume are hallucinations, but they've actually got links to some actual events that are going on. And yeah, it's quite a trippy film. Not one of the best films I've ever seen, but it's enjoyable enough. It's got one of these slip covers. So, I never understood the point of a slip cover that's exactly the same as the front cover. But yeah, and there's the disc in there. Oh god, that's quite creepy. Yeah, there you go. Next up is probably my favourite of the modern ghosty films. I don't know what else to call them, but you know, modern films that have ghosts in them. Sinister. This kind of, as much as it's got cliches and things in it, it has some really original ideas. Again, that. Yeah, it's about a writer who moves into a house where these murders took place, and he slowly uncovers that, you know, there's been a lot of murders going on, and yeah, it's quite a nasty film. Very, very effective though, I'd say. Quite a scary film. I haven't seen part 2 yet, but I am very much looking forward to it, so let's hope it's as good as this one. Okay, this one is another gift from David. This is The Thing 2-movie box set. This has the original, well, I say the original, the one that everyone knows, the John Carpenter film from the 80s, and also the prequel from 2011. I haven't seen the prequel, but I have seen John Carpenter's The Thing, and it's just a fantastic movie, so yeah, it's really enjoyable, but like I said, prequel I cannot speak for, but the Blu Ray is very good quality. Okay, second last film now, and this is one I actually went to the cinema to see twice because I enjoyed it that much. The Woman in Black, starring Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah, I mean, it's got its faults, definitely, it's got its flaws, but overall I'd say this is a pretty good retelling of the story. I'd say I prefer it to the original TV film, but also my dad and me have been to see this on stage twice, and yeah, it's quite scary when it's actually in the real world in front of you. So yeah, we've got, just in case you forgot the title of the film there, we've got it twice. And yeah, I haven't watched this, so I can't comment on the quality, but I'm assuming the quality is better than the box. There we go. So yeah, pretty good film, I'd say, The Woman in Black. And finally, a little bit like Predator, this is sort of more of an action film than a horror film, but it's got the themes there. This is World War Z, obviously, the extended action cut, which I haven't seen, but I have seen the normal theatrical release cut, if that's what you want to call it. And I really quite enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty well done. It's a zombie apocalypse film where the zombies run. That's all you need to know, really. Simplistic disc, but yeah, I quite enjoyed this film, and I believe that tops us off, because that's alphabetical order, and I don't think I've got any that begin with Z, so yeah. Right, that's my horror Blu-ray collection thus far. There's some films in there that are dubious, you know, Alien Abduction, for example, the one I haven't heard of. But yeah, I'll definitely get around to watching them all. If you have seen these films, please let me know what you think of the films and the collection thus far. And in the next video, I'll be going over what I've bought between now and then. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, see you later.